Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for the How to Automate Your Entire Business with Freshsales and Zapier webinar today. So before we just quickly begin the webinar, we'll do a quick sound check. So if you can hear me clearly and if you can see the screen, please use the hand raise option on your GoToWebinar panel to let us know of the same. I'll quickly repeat myself before we actually jump into the webinar today. We'll do a quick sound check. So if you can hear me clearly and if you can see my screen, just notify me with the help of the hand raise option on the GoToWebinar panel. Right. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, William. And thank you, Elizabeth. Thanks, Nigel. Thanks. Okay, all right. I think we seem to be getting a fair number of responses, and by the looks of it, it seems to be all good. So I'll quickly get started. We'll do a quick round of introductions and kind of quickly set context before we actually jump into the webinar, and then I will hand it over to our presenters for today, Rob and Jesse. So once again, thank you so much for joining us for the How to Automate Your Entire Business with Freshsales and Zapier webinar. My name is Tejas, and I'm a part of the product marketing team at Freshsales CRM. Freshsales is a sales CRM product built by Freshworks. Freshworks is a fast-growing SaaS company. We have various other SaaS software products such as Freshdesk for customer support, Freshservice for your ITSM needs, Freshchat for live chat, Freshmarketer, which is a CRO software, so on and so forth, and Freshsales, which is an extremely intuitive, easy to use, affordable sales CRM software. Today we have with us Robert Schmidt, who is the co-founder of Alice Digital. He is also a certified Zapier expert and a Freshworks solutions partner. We also have with us Jesse Parker from Zapier. Jesse is the community engagement manager and experts program lead at Zapier. So before I hand it over to them to present, let me just quickly tell you why we're doing this webinar. So a lot of you probably use a lot of different tools at your business to manage your sales process on a daily basis. But probably a lot of times these tools aren't connected to one another. The data doesn't flow seamlessly between them. And these tools can't really talk very well to one another. And sometimes, trying to connect all of these tools might need you to invest a lot of time, invest a lot of money, as well as a lot of developer effort. Right, but what if there was a way to seamlessly and in a very simple codeless fashion integrate all of these tools and get them to talk to one another? That's where a tool like Zapier comes in. So today, Rob and Jesse will be walking us through how we can create these simple codeless integrations called Zaps between Freshsales and Zapier and all of the other tools that you use at your business to help you essentially automate your entire business. Before we begin, I'd just like to remind you that this is a live webinar and we will be taking questions throughout. So feel free to send in your questions as and when the webinar progresses, and Rob and Jesse will be more than happy to take them. And another quick reminder is that all attendees will receive a copy of the webinar recording by either the end of this week or early next week. So feel free to pass on that email to your friends and colleagues. And with that, Rob and Jesse, it's over to you.
Hey, great. Thanks, Tejas. And hey, everyone, appreciate you getting on for this. So just to kind of reiterate what Tejas was saying, if you guys have any feedback at all while we're going through this or questions, really don't be afraid to ask. Don't be shy. This is live, so your feedback will help me better tailor this this entire experience. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So just a little bit about me, and I'll pass it over to Jesse. So my name is Rob Schmidt. Like I said, I'm a fractional CTO and co-founder at Alice Design, Zapier certified expert and Freshworks solution partner. I have a lot of experience, automating businesses. I've grown a couple startups to seven-figure businesses and been responsible for handling the technical infrastructure for that. So know a lot about what it takes at the early stages of your business and then further on, specifically with automation. So I'll be addressing some of those use cases here as we go along.
Cool. And I'm Jesse Parker. I've actually been over at Zapier for about 5.5 years now, working in lots of different areas of the company. I started in customer support, did some operations, worked on the product team, have built our certified experts program. But most recently, I've been heading up our community engagement team, where I've really been trying to focus on building relationships and driving cross-educational efforts, kind of like these webinars with our experts and app partners like Freshsales. So it's really good to be here and meet all of you.
Excellent. Thanks, Jesse. So just to kind of give you guys an overview of what we're going to be covering today. So first, we're going to kind of start off with the problems that businesses are facing today, and then how automation really solves these problems, specifically using Zapier. You'll get an idea of what this could mean for the future success of your business. We will be going through some live examples as well. So I'll actually show you inside of Zapier how to set up workflows, how to connect your accounts, and then after that, we'll talk more about how to get help, and we'll have a cool, exciting announcement from Jesse at Zapier as well. All right, so you may be wondering, is this for me? Should I be here? Let me just go ahead and say yes. It doesn't matter if you're a business owner who's managing a bunch of managers and individual contributors, or just that solopreneur who's wearing tons of hats. Honestly, if you're the solopreneur, this will definitely be helpful for you. Or if you're the superstar employee, because the reality is that we all want to get more, have more fun at our jobs and feel like we're learning and growing more in our roles. And so using automation to help us focus on what matters more is important at every level of the business. So really being able to either go to your boss, go to your department head, or go to a client and say, hey, like, this is something we can do. This is a better way to do things. It means a lot. It'll make you look like the expert, which you are. And honestly, it's just going to help benefit both the company and yourself. So, there's a problem right now. Businesses are losing money. And so for this example, bad customer support costs businesses more than $62 billion every year. And so when you talk to the customer support professionals, 73% of them are saying that the most challenging issue is managing their time and workload. And so, let me give you kind of an example here. So like, if you ever called into an airline or maybe even GoDaddy or something like that, and they ask you to put in your PIN, and then maybe your address and your account number and all this information, state your name, and then you get to the agent and then they're like, oh, yeah, can you give me all that information again? And then maybe instead of like, oh, do that, it's like, oh, actually, yeah, you're in the wrong spot. Let me transfer you. And then they transfer you and they're like, yeah, they'll take care of all your problems. And you get there and they have none of the information. You have to go through the entire process again. It's extremely annoying. But to be honest, it's not just annoying for us. It is annoying for them as well, because they're having to deal with us complaining about it. And that's honestly a lot of times an issue to do with the systems that they're using. And so when we look at this, it's like they're having to spend time, one, actually getting and diagnosing an issue again that may have been already diagnosed, also gathering information as far as like the account information, again, whereas if we could make sure that all this information was transferred along, it would be a lot better. And also, I want to add that, like, so canned responses or even just basically a saved response that customer support professionals use to send out, like, that's another form of automation. And you'd be surprised how many businesses that answer the same exact question every single day to tens, hundreds of customers don't save those responses and just basically, for you automate them sending out, or even just have it so they can copy and paste. And so these are just simple, certain things you can do that will help your business save money, and specifically not even just save money, but also provide a better customer experience. And so, this kind of leads us into just a laundry list of problems, right? And really, the way things can operate today, especially given technology, is not the way they used to be. So like, we no longer have to have like lengthened feedback loops. I mean, if you think about, the fact of, let's say that you get a lead that comes in, right? And then if you're having to handle at least the initial outbound response, and then once they reply, maybe you're trying to go back and forth about scheduling something on a calendar, then maybe that doesn't work, so you have to reschedule again. Like you're extending the time that it takes for you to close a sale, so your sales cycle's being extended. And then like when you could just be using automated solutions like a calendar where they go ahead and schedule, or just automating the initial email that goes out to them. So one, when it's top of mind for them, whether they filled out a form or made a small purchase or something in that regard, like they're getting that initial response and feedback that they're looking for. They're not having to wait, a day, hours later for you to get back to them, which also relates to just it's a better customer or prospect experience. And then also, when you're thinking about, especially if you're a solopreneur or if you have a company with maybe not a ton of employees, or honestly, this happens at all levels of companies, is that people run into what I kind of refer to as priority ambiguity. When you're having to deal with, this customer support person that just wrote in, and then maybe you're dealing with someone who wants to buy your product or sign a contract. And then all of a sudden you have your boss that sent you this email, and you're getting Slacks and you're getting all this stuff. It's like, how do I decide what is the most important? And so if you can go ahead and take a lot of these mundane, repetitive tasks, or even just provide a way, like I was saying, with a calendar for someone to book, you're basically limiting the number of things that you're trying to juggle and multitask. And so there's no ambiguity with priority. You know what your tasks are, you know what you need to focus on, and it's essential to running your business. And then a big one that people don't always think about, but like you'd be surprised how often it happens, is unethical and illegal behavior. When you have data transferring automatically between systems, you can trust that data is what it's supposed to be. Machines don't make mistakes. If anything, it's us that makes the mistake, like setting things up. And so you can trust that the data you're pulling for reports is accurate. It's not a manager that went in there to fudge some numbers or make things or inflate some numbers or change it to make it look more favorable towards them, or to kind of try and hide a truth. Even although a lot of times it's an innocent thing, everyone can sometimes do that, especially if they've been a tough day and they're like, hey, I'll make it up next week or next month. So when you have these systems automatically exchanging data, it's no longer you trusting a person, it's just you trusting the system. And obviously we all want to trust our employees and everything, but locks are there to keep honest people honest. And so I think you'll find that, with implementing automation, you'll have a much better employee relationship, customer relationship. You'll shorten your sales cycles. You'll get feedback loops on what you need to improve, and you'll be able to honestly just improve your business in a lot of ways. So there's another problem that businesses are facing. And so 56% of all funding considered at risk in projects is due to ineffective communication. And so, just by the way, if you're ever wondering, I include my sources down at the bottom. But for this, is think about it this way, right? So communication is not just between manager and individual contributor, and then maybe business owner. It's not just human to human. It's also machine to machine. And so when you're thinking about information being lost, forgotten, and confused, this is definitely more of an issue with humans, right? You don't really have machines like forgetting or getting confused, although sometimes. But so what I want you to think about here is that, like, if you can make it easier for, again, the people in your business to hold on to the information that's important, whether it's like a conversation they had in a meeting, right, or a conversation feedback they got from a sales staff, if they can then like use this information and implement it in their job in more of a an abstract way, and not have to worry so much about this conversation now derailing them from going and plugging in these invoice numbers, it's going to be better for your business. And like, again, that whole kind of priority ambiguity and things like getting thrown in the mix at random times, like information all the time is getting lost, forgotten, or confused. And so we want to eliminate the need for that, or like that happening entirely, or at least lower the percentage of the time that it's happening. And we definitely don't want that to happen with stuff such as like, client information, especially if it's personal information, or billing or things of that nature. So let's, not put the means of success of the entire operation onto a single person's memory. Let's connect our systems. Let's make it easier for people to do the things that they were hired to do, and let the systems work together. So you may have seen this coming, but the solution is automation. So really, like, companies that are implementing automation, they aren't just succeeding, they really will grow to dominate their industries. And one, they'll be able to run with, smaller organizations, that are more focused on doing meaningful work versus mundane, repetitive tasks. But also, so as it's showing here, highly automated companies are 6 times more likely to experience revenue growth of more than 15%. And like, I can say, firsthand that, so we took a startup from just around $500,000 annually to 24 million in the matter of a year. And in 8 months, we went from 4 to 117 employees. And the reality is that, like, we could not have done that if our systems didn't work and they didn't talk together. We couldn't have scaled for that many people where they're all interacting with the system if it was completely human based. And so us being able to achieve that growth, obviously we had an excellent team, and like that matters a lot. But the reality is that our systems worked well, and we could trust them to work when we were sleeping or when we're on the job. So, kind of just touching on some benefits of automation before we get into the live examples. So, as far as improving employee productivity and morale and retention, so a lot of people think of automation as replacing people's jobs, and I really don't like the thought of that, because the way I kind of look at it is automation both enables business and human evolution. And this is because when people aren't required to focus on the same mundane, repetitive tasks, they can actually start to, do what they're good at, which is looking at innovating problems and figuring out other problems. And so, according to CIO.com, 78% of workers say that automating manual, repetitive tasks would allow them to focus on the more interesting and rewarding aspects of their jobs. And I'm telling you, this is the case. When you make it easier for people to do what they actually care about and not get frustrated with forgetting something or not knowing when to do something, it'll be a lot better. So as far as streamlining inefficient processes and workflows, so organizations, managers, and individual contributors can stay focused on the data and work that matters. Without clutter in the workflow, your team's output, it's going to increase exponentially, and it really will. And then, so again, here it's kind of getting into that unethical potentially behavior. So increased reporting, transparency, and accuracy. I mean, so I have a core belief that that which can't be measured can't be managed, and problems in your processes become easy to spot, and employee accountability will be increased and enforced. And also really, like, a business, like, you need to be able to measure its effectiveness and measure where you're going in order to really make it in the long run. So focusing on customer service and delivery. So, if you can dedicate your efforts and skills toward delighting the customer, work will be carried out at a consistent standard. You won't have to worry about, providing that poor experience, like, hey, can you give me your information again? You can really focus on solving the need, addressing the concern or the problem, and then also taking that, and speaking about feedback loops, taking that feedback, sending it back to either development or your sales team, and be like, hey, these are things we need to improve, not having to worry about the data entry. Voice is getting lost. Hey, Rashmi, let me know if it continues to cut out. You may want to, if you're having trouble here, you may want to disconnect and connect back in. Sometimes that fixes it. And then last thing before we get into the examples, so enable exponential growth and scale. So managing large teams becomes a much simpler task of just like checking your process overviews. So think about this, like, if your marketing team can approve 10 items per hour instead of 1, or your support can handle 20 tickets instead of 5. I mean, one, that's also like you can perform at a much higher level, right? Doing more business. But also, like, you don't have to hire and train as many people to do these tasks. And so, it's obviously, like, you can grow that way, you can scale that way, and it's a benefit to cash flow. All right, so one thing that kind of comes up is, like, people are like, automation, I can't automate things. I don't have time to hire a developer, or the developer I do have is extremely busy, working on the product, and a laundry list of, like, reasons why they can't automate. But just a hint to you guys, automation isn't for developers. Like, it used to be, it still is, but isn't only for developers. And so according to McKinsey, about half of the activities carried out by workers could be automated by adapting already existing technologies. And it's true, it's accurate. And honestly, that's why we're here today. And so, you know, that's what I want to let you know. You have the right technology. You really do. I mean, if you're working with Freshsales, and again, let me say, like, not just Freshsales, but if you're in the Freshworks ecosystem, what I'm about to say to you here is applicable throughout the ecosystem. It's, you know, it's not just Freshsales, the entire suite of tools. One, they connect together, but also they work with Zapier as well. So if you're using multiple tools and you know your gears are turning about how you can, you know, does this apply to Freshdesk? It does. It does. And also, you know, just to give you guys a quick kind of thing to chew on or to think about is, like, in the early 2000s, when websites first came about, like, you know, you really had to know HTML and then CSS to be able to build your website. But then, you know, somewhere along, I'm not exactly sure when, you know, companies started coming out with visual builders for your website. And all of a sudden now the average person can get in and get on, you know, behind your computer and use drag and drop editors and templates and make your site look beautiful, right? Well, that's what I want you to think about Zapier as, like, a visual builder for your automations and your integrations. You know, you're not having to get in there and write code. You're just having to get in there and just click a few buttons and just make things kind of look the way you want them to. And so we'll get into that. But really, I want you all to know, you don't need to be a developer. If you have a developer, Zapier, one, will also just enable them to a higher degree to get things done quicker. So it can help, you know, remove your developer or developers as bottlenecks and constraints by giving, you know, having them not have to reinvent the wheel. So, you know, to kind of get started, I know we've mentioned Zapier. Some of you may use Zapier, so that's great. A lot of you may have never heard of it before. So if you haven't heard of it before, you know, you're in the right place as well. So first, you know, what is Zapier? So simply, it's the easiest way to automate your business. It moves information between your tools automatically every single time. You don't have to worry about it. That's the beauty of automation, right? That's what you want. Information moving back and forth between your tools and your systems automatically. So some important vocab before we get into the examples is you have your zaps, your triggers, and your actions. And so a zap is made up of a trigger and one or more actions. And so you can think of, you know, your zap as being the actual, like, workflow or process that you're automating, and then the trigger is what begins, like, so what causes this workflow or this automation to run. And so over on the right here, like, I just have a simple example. So when someone submits a Facebook lead form, so that would be the trigger. So you're running ads on Facebook, and then someone fills out the lead form, that's the trigger. All right, so what's the action? So the action is what you want to do. So in this case, you know, we're going to create a lead in the CRM, specifically talking about Freshsales, and we're going to set the stage as new. So that happens automatically. So you're not having to go to Facebook and download your leads and go upload them. Every single time someone fills it out, they're coming in. And then another action step, so this would be a multi-step zap, is we have, you know, alert me in Slack about the new lead. And so a lot of y'all, and I recommend this, I still do this, even though I automate things all the time, is I'll have Slack or whatever your messaging application you're using, send me a notification, basically letting me know that the workflow, you know, when the zap went through completely, that the lead was added to the CRM, and everything worked as it should. You know, one of your best days will honestly be when you get in there and you, like, take off the final step, which is to send you the notification, because you're like, all right, I don't need these notifications anymore. It's been working, and it always will work, I'll tell you that. But, you know, us as humans, we like to know, we like to have that satisfaction that it's working. And so you go in there and you remove that and you're like, wow, it's a great day. Like, I have something that's just running in the background. I don't even have to worry about it. And you trust it, which is important. So I'm gonna show you how to find this information, but just want to give you an idea of what some triggers and actions are, specifically between Freshsales and Zapier. And so triggers, you know, it could be a new deal, account, lead, contact. Actions, you know, we have the create and the update. There's also update, contact, and some other ones that aren't shown on here, which I'll go into Zapier and actually show you how to find. And then there's searches. And so searches can be if you have to find a contact or find a lead. They're often going to be a part of more advanced workflows. Nothing we're necessarily going to cover here as far as searches. For the most part, we'll be using Freshsales as either a trigger or an immediate action. But if you do need to, let's say you just give you kind of an example, if you're using, a system maybe for invoicing and it needs to go and find take that email and find the appropriate contact in Freshsales to extract, like, I don't know, maybe the address or something, which may not be the right case. That's an example of a search when you would need to use that. All right, so going to go over some live examples. I actually added a Calendly example that we're going to go over as well. If you guys comment and you're like, hey, like I use this, like show me this. If I have time, I will go over that. But we're going to go over some examples specifically with Facebook lead forms. We're going to talk about Gravity forms. I'm sure a lot of you use that. And then we'll talk about Active Campaign, and then we'll also get inside of Freshsales, and I'll show you how to basically use some basically some triggers that you can set up inside of Freshsales as well. So I'll take it through really slow. If you guys think I'm going too slow, let me know. Too fast, let me know. Again, I'm here to provide a good experience for y'all and make sure you really can understand this and get the most out of it. All right, so when you go to Zapier.com, what's going to happen is you'll have to log in or create an account. You'll be taken to the first screen you'll see is your dashboard. And really from here, you can create a Zap right here on the screen, but we're going to kind of skip over that for now. The main place you'll want to see is My Zaps. And so My Zaps, like, we're not going to necessarily get into folders and everything like that, but you can have folders to organize stuff. So it is nice if you end up creating a lot of Zaps. I went ahead and pulled together this folder with some different examples we're going to go over. But first thing I want to show you is, you're probably wondering, like, well, I use Active Campaign, or I use Autopilot, or some other tool, Intercom, whatever it may be, and you want to know, like, does this connect? So come over and go to Explore. You can also go to Apps, but I like the Explore screen mostly. And then what we'll do is, so we'll start with Freshsales. And while I'm at it, I'm just going to go ahead and show you Freshdesk, so you can get an idea of, the fact that there's multiple integrations. So what you can do is, after you select, see if I can get, all right, after you select those, what you'll do is, as you start to scroll down, you'll see some popular Zaps, which would be like, even the one I showed, create leads in Freshsales from Facebook lead ads. That's one. You can click use this Zap and it'll use it as a template. But you scroll down, all right, so you'll see the app details for current selections. And so what you can see here is, you can say, all right, here are the triggers: new deal, new lead, new contact, new account, actions. Here you can scroll through and actually see what all the different actions are. So what we're looking at here for your reference and understanding is, these are called supported functions, or supported actions, or supported triggers. And that means that Freshsales, and I guess more largely Freshworks, when creating their applications with Zapier, they basically set up these standard supported events. So these are things that you can go in and with just a click of a button you can do. I will go ahead and be totally transparent that, like, so you may notice there isn't an update deal on here. That does not mean that you can't update a deal. It doesn't mean that you can't update a task or create an appointment or things of that nature. You totally can, and really there's really nothing you can't do. And I'd be hard pressed to actually find something you couldn't do. Just because it's not a support action doesn't mean you can't do it. I will speak briefly after these examples about how you do it. If it's something that's not supported, if it's a more advanced workflow, I will speak to that. So don't have any concern. You can accomplish anything using Zapier and Freshsales, really. All right, and then here you can see some ones for Freshdesk. So create form, create company, create ticket, things like that. All right, and again, everyone, do feel free to ask any questions as we're going. Jess would be happy to answer them. So if you do have anything. All right, So you go back to My Zaps, and then I'm going to take you first through setting up a Facebook lead form to Freshsales. So what you'll do, I already have some of these set up, but you'll click Make a Zap in the top right. You'll just come here. Oh, and just point this out, it will work. This is the same flow essentially for LinkedIn lead gen forms. If you're using that, you just do the exact same thing. You'll come in, you'll type in Facebook. You'll see Facebook lead ads comes up. So you'll click that. New lead, save and continue. So you'll need to connect your account. I'll just go ahead and reconnect one of my accounts. So you click connect an account. This little window is going to pop up. Let's see. Well, that's obviously not what we wanted to happen. So 1 second. All right, looks like it actually did reconnect. I think it just did that because I currently had an account. Yeah. So when you go through and do it yourself, sorry that didn't work out exactly as planned. When you go through and connect it yourself, what it's going to say is it's going to have, if you guys have ever connected anything to Facebook, or it's like, do you give Facebook permission? You click yes. It's that same flow, whether you signed into an account with Facebook or gave it permission to, your Uber Eats or something. Like you can click through that, and it's the same. Very intuitive flow, very simple. Anyways, you'll select the account. You'll click continue. So you have to select the page that you want to use it for. If you just have one page, it should just be right there. But let's just say you don't, so you can just search for it. And then below there is where you'll select the form. And this isn't a Facebook demo, but just to let you guys know, the way you create a form is you go to Publishing Tools on your page, and then go down to Forms Library, and you create a form there. There's also great documentation online. So anyways, you'll select the form that you want. I don't really recommend going with any form. I like to keep my forms separated out. So we'll just go with this. Click continue. So what you'll do here is you need to pull in samples. And so the reason you pull in samples is you need sample data in order to be able to basically tell the next step what data, what information it needs. So this is probably just some test data. So Facebook, is nice enough to send us some test data, so you don't have to go fill out the form. But so you'll have this information here. And again, one thing to know, it doesn't, as long as there's any value in the field that you want, then you can map it. So you'll just click continue. All right, so you lack an action step, so you click add a step, and then you'll come to action. And so just to point out, you guys will see these add a helper steps. I will just mention these as we go. Just know that pretty much 99 out of 100 times you're going to click action search, and all those are accessible through the action search step as well. But again, I don't want to confuse you, so we'll leave that here. So we'll go Freshsales. Then you guys may want to do create lead. I recommend using update lead. It does create a lead if the lead doesn't already exist. The reason I say use update lead is because let's say this lead came through a Facebook form, and then they also came through a form on your website. If you're using create lead, it's going to create 2 leads inside of your CRM. Where if you use update lead, it's going to just create 1 lead and just keep updating that lead. I can think of some arguments for why you'd want to create both, but for the most part, I always use update lead. Click save and continue. You'll need to connect your account. So as far as connecting Freshsales, this probably is a good one to show you also. When you click connect, it's going to ask you to put it in the subdomain. So what that means is, and I have it pulled up here. So for me, my subdomain is alicedesign.freshsales.io. So, oops, sorry. So what you do is you would just you would just put in Alice Design right here, or whatever yours is. So, company name, and then API key. And so to get the API key, you come into your account and click up here. You just click, I always just click on the connect email to get there, and I just click API settings. And then you're just going to click copy. and then you'll come here, you'll paste that, you'll click yes, continue, and then it'll be connected. Mine's already connected, so I'm not gonna reconnect it. So here we are. So you select the account that you want, click save and continue. Now here's like the most important part, really. Like this is what you got to do to make it happen. So this is where you map in the data, and when I say map, I mean just connect or pull in the information from the previous step. And so when you update by, just choose email, and then right here, so you'll see you can type in here. So that would be what we call hard coding. Essentially, would be like, you're putting in a standard text that for every single time this runs, this is going to be what happens. So don't put the email address hard coded in here. You want to click this little drop down, and then where it says email, you map that in. And so what'll happen is every time it's filled out, this value here is going to change. And then so again, you put in the email, put in, so for me, I have full name where it's actually split out first, last, but on your lead form, you'd want to separate it first and last. But you just map in the fields. You can choose the owner if you want. You can choose a specific stage it should be in. And all this is, you can just choose all this information. And then when you get to, after you've mapped everything in, so phone number, email, name, any other information you collected on the form, then you'll click continue, and then you'll just send the test to Freshsales. And so, or you can skip the test. And so basically it just means, like, I recommend always testing it, because when you send a test, it's going to tell you a test lead was just sent to Freshsales. So you can go into Freshsales and you'll be able to find that lead. Yeah, so I mean that's simply how you set it up. So for Facebook lead ads to Freshsales, I'll go ahead and build on this example real quick. And let's say that you also are using MailChimp and you want it to go into your MailChimp list. You're just going to come here and click add a step. And again, it doesn't matter if you're using MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, Aweber, SendLane, whatever. You just come here and you just type it in. And it'll be there. And then, you can click this show less common option. So it could be if you wanted to send them a specific campaign or add a tag or anything like that. But, for now, let's just say add or update a subscriber. Save and continue, connect an account. So this is one. Yep, connected the account. And then you can, by the way, if you click this little pencil, you can rename it. So I think this one was called Kaliana. So you just name it, click save and continue. So as far as the audience, you'll just choose who you want. So let's say, Alice is the list. You'll map in the email. So again, you'll just take that email field, and then you can, if you want to update anything else, you have that option as well. Again, go to continue, and you'll send the test. For this one, I'm not going to send that test. I actually did this earlier, and I accidentally sent an email out to someone that shouldn't have gotten it. So if I'm skipping tests, it's because I don't want to accidentally send any emails. But yeah, so that's how you set up a multi-step Zap. Basically a new Facebook lead, and again, it could have been a LinkedIn lead gen form. It comes and updates, creates a lead in Freshsales, and then adds it to MailChimp. And then just so you know, when you name it, like I always just name it, so it would be like, lead form name, to Freshsales and MailChimp. So essentially, you can name it whatever you want, but ideally you name it something that lets you know what it is. All right, and then you turn it on and you'd be good to go. So as we can see, here is that Zap that we just set up together. And some of y'all may know, like, just so you know, it says like instant right here. Just something to be aware of. Your Zaps are either going to run instant, which means that, so some of them either run instant or they run every few minutes, depending on the account you're on and depending on the type of integration you're using. So some of them are not instant, and what they do is they take a few minutes. So if you don't see something show up from an automation right away, just look to see if it says instant. If it doesn't say instant, then give it 5 to 15 minutes depending on the level you're on. We can talk more about that later. Okay, so for people that are using Gravity Forms, I want to let you know, so there's 2 ways to integrate with Gravity Forms. One is if you upgrade your Gravity Form, so if you come into Forms inside of your, so to let you guys know where I am, I came into my WordPress backend, I went to Forms, I clicked on Add-ons, and if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see a Zapier add-on. You'll have the option to activate it, or it might say something like upgrade. So this add-on's only available to Gravity Forms Elite license holders. What this means is that, so basically to use the Zapier add-on, you have to pay, I think it's like $250 a year. So there's 2 ways to do this. One is if you're already on the level where you want to pay the $250 or you have it, just use the Zapier add-on. It works easily. The other option is you can use what's called an email parser. So I'm not going to go too much into that, but essentially what you would do is you would come to make a Zap. And so for the Zapier add-on, it's a little bit more straightforward. It's just like a URL that you just copy and paste. I'm not going to show you how to do that here, but it is very simple. I mean, if you guys overwhelmingly want me to, I will, but it's pretty straightforward. What I will show you though, very simply, is let's say you have, actually, one second. I already have this one set up. So there's an email parser application. And so I use this a lot. I recommend it, especially, so with Gravity Forms or really any form, you probably get an admin notification email, or you can at least set that up. So inside of Gravity Forms, if you went to Forms, and then you went to settings on that form and notifications, you'll have, you can add your email notification. The admin one is there by default. If you click edit, you'll have where you can send the email to. So this email address right here is the Zapier given email address. And so that's used over here. So essentially when you go and you set up the email parser, you'll go to this parser.zapier.com and set up a mailbox, and then they'll give you an email address that you paste in there. Essentially what happens is now it will send the notification email to that email every time, and then you can extract the information. I'm not going to go into too much detail on it, but this is kind of what it looks like. So like here would be like the template, and then here's the information for it. So like the address and so the email address, the power bill, the phone number, and then same here. When you come to update your stage in Freshsales, you can just map those fields in. And so this example takes a little bit of time to go through, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'll be happy to answer any questions about it, but it is very useful if you don't have an integration directly with Zapier, or you don't want to pay for the integration, you just want to use the admin email notification. All right. So, probably a lot of you guys use ActiveCampaign. I know it's a great marketing automation tool. I highly recommend it. So with ActiveCampaign, there's also, you can set it up. So let's say that you wanted every new lead in Freshsales to go into an ActiveCampaign, automation or onto a list. And again, this also applies to MailChimp, Aweber, SendLane, any autopilot, whatever you might be using. There's a way I set it up, so you could set it up like we did this Zap, where you add MailChimp or whatever to the end of each Zap. The problem with that is, like, if you have a ton of forms and a ton of way leads are coming in to your system, you're having to add this step on every single one. So what I like to do is make a Zap, and I'll use Freshsales this time as the trigger. And so what I'll do is I'll have a trigger off of a new lead. And then for that new lead. So basically you'll select the account that you want to use, save and continue. The filter name, so this is just basically like you can set up filters on your views inside of Freshsales. For this one, I'm just going to say all leads, and then you'll click continue. You'll wait for the sample. It's going to pull in a sample. And then what I'll do is I'll set up a step, which would be active campaign. And let's say we want to add contact to an automation. Or if we wanted to create an updated contact, same thing, what we did for MailChimp. But add contact to an automation. So again, I'm sorry. So on this step here, again, I'm just selecting the account I want to use, which you'll do through the connect an account. It's very simple, straightforward. On here, you'll select the automation you want to use. Here, let me select a different account real quick. So you'll select the automation you want to use. So let's say it's a thank you email. What you'll do is you'll map in the email. So for this one, so you see email, no data. That means this lead didn't have an email, but essentially you would have, if it did, it would be there. So you just would know because it's just called email, which would be the field inside of Freshsales. So email, and then all you do is click continue, and then you could send the test or skip the test. So essentially, the reason I set it up this way is you only have to have one Zap that takes all your leads and puts them into the mailing list or the campaign that you want. Whereas if you're adding, this step, essentially the add contact to a list or add contact to an automation to the end of every Zap, then like it's using more Zaps. It's hard to remember if you set it up on all of them. It's better just have one Zap you have to manage, and just have all the new leads be the trigger. So again, you would just name this so new leads to active campaign, and you would turn it on, and you're good to go. So I'm going to show you, before we kind of move on to the next part, I want to show you guys something very powerful, that you can do within your Freshsales workflows. And so for this example, I'm going to show you how to basically, when leads reach a certain stage, send them to a Facebook custom audience for remarketing. So essentially, imagine that for us, this is going to be called win back. And so imagine you generated a lead, and then you're not able to get a hold of them for your entire cycle. And then so what you do, instead of just marking them lost, a lot of times I move them to a stage called win back that then puts them into one, it can send them to an email campaign and a Facebook custom audience that I then will show ads to. So to put this very simply, what you're going to do is you'll click make a Zap, and then you'll also come inside of your Freshsales, go to your admin settings, and you'll go to workflows. You'll do create a workflow, and then let's just say this is win back leads to Facebook and active campaign. So I'll show you how to do both real quick. So you'll do that. You'll have it be on a lead. You'll do whenever the record is created or updated, because it's been created a while ago if it's in winback. Then you'll add a condition, which would be stage is in winback. All right, and then so when you click to add the action, you've probably seen this but never used it and don't know what to do. It's called trigger webhook. Webhook is basically just sending information to a URL. It might sound intimidating. It's not. It's really simple, and they make it simple. So you'll click trigger webhook, and then you'll come to Zapier, and again, simply just like you're connecting any application, you'll type in webhooks. You'll do catch hook. Don't even worry about that. Just know that that's what you click. You'll just copy this URL, and as simply as that, you just paste it right there, and that's it. And then all you do is you just decide what's the information I want to send along. So I want to send the ID of the lead, the first name, the last name, the emails, and the phone number. And then what you do is you just scroll down, you just click test. Don't worry about any of that information. You just click test, and you save it. And then when you come over here to pull in your sample, you'll just see the test. And so again, here's the last name, the mobile number, the email, the first name, just with Freshsales placeholder information. Click continue. Action step. So you'll just put in, again, type in Facebook, custom audiences, add email to custom audience. And then you'll just select the ad account. So audience is win back, and then you just map in the email, and then you're good to go. Again, you can send the test or skip the test. It doesn't matter. But so you'll have that audience. Now, every time someone reaches that stage, they'll go to this audience that you then can show ads to on Facebook and Instagram, which is a very powerful way to get people back. But then let's say you also wanted to send them to Active Campaign. You again just come here, put in Active Campaign, and follow the same flow essentially we did before. So creating a contact or ad automation. We went through these steps. I won't necessarily go through those again. There's one last thing I want to show you real quick before I give you guys some cool information, and that is using filters. And so I'm just going to briefly touch on this, but let's say that and here's the use case. So if you have Freshsales, and depending on what plan you're on, you only get a certain number of workflows that you can use. And even if you're on the highest one, maybe you used all your workflows, or you just want to be more efficient. So let's say that this was triggering off of lead stage, contacted and interested, and all these stages, right? Well, this webhook, or basically this trigger, is going to be triggered every time. And let's say that you had another trigger set up, like create task or something, that works off of that stuff. So let's say this trigger is going to be triggered every time. What you're going to do is you're going to set up a filter, all right? And then so back here on this this webhook or this trigger, you're going to send in, and again, it's as easy as clicking this checkbox. You're going to send in the lead stage because that's what we're going to filter on. So you'll click save. Actually, sorry, you'll need to click test again. And you'll click save. Then back over here, you'll go to test this step, get more samples. And so here's a sample that we just sent in. Oops. So you click continue with that. And then on this filter step, you're just going to choose filter, only continue if. And so this is getting more advanced, but it is very useful and good to know that it's possible. You'll type in lead stage or whatever it is you want to filter off of. So here's lead stage. And then you'll just say contains or equals, win back. And then this means it's only going to run if the lead stage is win back. And and yeah, it's as simple as that. So yeah, all right. Well, that's kind of it for the examples. I do want to let you guys know that, like, when I was talking about not being able to update deals necessarily, not being able to create automatically tasks or upload files using the supported actions, you really can do all that stuff and fairly simply, but you can become limitless, honestly, using kind of the webhooks, what I was just showing you briefly, Freshsales workflows and the Freshsales API. So, API, that's probably a lot of you may not even know what that is. Don't necessarily worry about it. But basically, you can use the webhooks to work with the API. This is more advanced stuff. I don't want to necessarily bog you down with it, but here's examples of things you can do. So log inbound, outbound text messages, call logs. You want to send an invoice or log an invoice payment, attach files, record sales activities, create update tasks, appointments. All this stuff is possible and fairly easy to set up using these. I do have a cheat sheet if you guys want to email me for it on how to use the Freshsales API. And that's, it's very easy to use within Zapier and also happy to work. And so that kind of leads me to my next point. So I am a Zapier certified expert, Freshworks solutions partner. So like I was saying earlier, I've automated over 1 million tasks, experience with APIs, JavaScript, doing advanced workflows. And I really know the ins and outs of Freshsales and Zapier. And so I can't speak enough to what it can do for your business. And then if any of y'all would like any help implementing anything, or if you get stuck running into issues, I'd be happy to work with you and speak with you for free. And then we do have paid options as well if you do want more involved experience. But I'm just here to support y'all. Big fan of the Freshworks community, and just here to help you out. So if you go to this link here, alice.design/Zapier-webinar, which I will post in the chat. You can just fill out that quick form. It'll come straight to me, and then I can help you out with anything. I'll talk to you about your business and your problems. But really, there's nothing you can't accomplish, and I'm telling you, automation can make a huge benefit to your company. So yeah, I'd be happy to work with y'all, and just let me know. And then I'm gonna pass it over to Jesse just now to give you guys an exciting announcement from Zapier.
Cool. Yeah, so just a quick heads up for folks. So later this summer, Zapier is actually launching a community forum for our global user base. So if you've ever had questions on how to use Zapier, how others are using Zapier with Freshsales or any of the Freshworks products, or really any other app that might be in your business tool belt, this is going to be the place that you're going to want to go to get answers and be inspired by some pretty neat use cases. So if you're interested, I'd really love to have you on our early beta that's coming out in about a month or two by using the URL that's on the slide and also that Rob posted in the chat there. Just a heads up just to make sure that you're using your Zapier email address, because we're restricting this to those that are Zapier users. But again, it's definitely a great resource to kind of help you expand on what you're doing with Freshsales and Zapier and discover other ways you can automate and scale your business.
Yep, and not to mention, so signing up for Zapier is free, so you don't need to pay anything to sign up for Zapier.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Rob.
Absolutely. So now we really just want to open it up to questions. Here's my personal contact information if you need anything. But yeah, let's, whatever questions you got. I know that there is one here from Nigel. So let's see. Can you update a fresh desk record with Freshsales data using Zapier? Yes, you can. Do you have like a, if you have like a specific question, I'd be happy to answer that as well. But yes, in short, you can. And then so, while waiting on kind of the questions to come in here, and again, really feel free to ask anything as broad or as specific as you like. But one thing I do want to speak to is a nice thing about being a part of the Freshworks ecosystem, as I like to call it. So, Freshsales, Freshdesk, Freshmarketer, all of their services is really, they've already taken a lot of the legwork out of it if you use their tools by connecting them already. So their integration's already set up, which is very nice. There also is a marketplace which Tejas could speak more to, where there's supported apps and stuff that you can go ahead and connect with.
Absolutely, Rob. Thank you so much for mentioning the Freshworks app marketplace. So Freshworks currently has open marketplaces for Freshdesk, Freshservice, and Freshsales. And currently we support 600 plus apps across all of these three products. And we have the fastest growing marketplace in the B2B SaaS software ecosystem. Specific to Freshsales, we have currently about 80 plus apps in our marketplace. And these include almost any and every popular software that you use at your business. So take, for example, it could be something like Hugo that you might be using to manage your meetings. It could be 3CX or a CDC that you use for your telephony needs. It could be something like a QuickBooks or a Xero that you use for invoicing. We have apps available across almost all popular categories. And rest assured, even if you don't find an app that is listed on our marketplace today, if it is a fairly popular software provider solution, we will definitely have it in a few weeks or a few months' time at maximum, given the kind of velocity that our marketplace actually has. And just to sort of add on top of that, we also have open SDKs that are made available. So if there's a need to build a custom app to build to specify your business use case, again, it is something that should be doable. Yeah.
Yep. So thanks for that. And yeah, I mean, really between the marketplace, between the SDKs, the APIs, all these acronyms, and then between Zapier, I mean, there really isn't anything that can't be accomplished and can't be done. Sometimes it's just a matter of like thinking of how to look at the problem or how to solve it. And so as far as William, yes, there will be a recording of this demo. And then can you briefly touch on, so from Elizabeth, can you briefly touch on how Zapier is used on LinkedIn? Yeah, so real quick, and I'll just kind of pull this up. If we go back to the Explorer, so LinkedIn, you'll see there is like, so I'll just pull up all three of these so you can look at them. I don't know why Facebook offline conversions keeps getting selected, but so if you come down here to the app details, so basically there's only a couple supported actions for LinkedIn right now: create company update, create share update, so post a status. For the lead gen forms, there's a trigger, which is when someone writes in as a form response. And then LinkedIn match audience can be, create audience, add emailed audience. So again, this could be kind of what I showed with adding a user to a Facebook custom audience. Same thing here. I will say that there's a lot of demand for people with LinkedIn to kind of expand what's possible. And LinkedIn does have kind of a closed ecosystem as far as like their API and stuff. So like they are a little bit slower to roll out with potentially new things to do, like extracting the information of a connection or something like that. There are tools out there on the web to do that. There's one called Phantom Buster if anyone wants to go check that out. But yeah, and if that didn't answer your question, Elizabeth, feel free to ask it again another way. And then we'll just leave another like 30 seconds or so for any questions to come in. If you're typing and need a second, just let us know. But other than that, I think we're reaching the end. Well, again, we appreciate everyone coming out for this, and hopefully, you got some good ideas. And you're welcome, Elizabeth. Hopefully, you guys got some good ideas about how you could start implementing things in your business. Maybe you have some mundane tasks or repetitive tasks you're doing every day that you want to automate. If we didn't cover the example here, again, feel free to shoot me an email, and I will just let you know if it's possible, and not only which it would, 999 out of 1,000 times, I'm going to say yes, it's possible. I mean, really. And then, I'll also let you point you in the right direction and give you some help if need be. But yeah, so happy implementing with y'all's businesses.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Rob, and thank you so much, Jesse. I think we don't have any more questions, so we're pretty much coming right to the end of this webinar. So like Rob and like Jesse have said, we're going to be sharing the webinar recording with you. Their contact details are also available in the email with all of the links that we will be sending over. So feel free to get in touch with them. Feel free to get in touch with us should you have any questions. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us for this webinar, and thank you so much, Rob, and thank you so much, Jesse, for coming over and hosting this webinar for us. And I know all of you who are attending this webinar are also probably joining us from various parts of the world. So thank you so much once again for attending, and have a good day, have a great night from whichever part of the world you belong to, and thank you once again.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.